call the January general meeting of the Grass Association to order at 7:12. Thank you. Welcome. So, get this nice view. You're here in person. Yeah, we don't have any. Okay, great. Come on in. We're gonna do a little icebreaker. We did this last time. It doesn't work perfectly with the hybrid setup, but if you're on Zoom, you can drop it into the chat. If you're in person, I'd love to do a quick introduction with your name and your favorite part. This side of the thing. We'll just shout it out, and then I'll read the ones that are in Zoom, but I want to, last time it was like the place you frequented the most in St. John's. We had a lot of fun with it. So, yeah, what's your favorite part? This side. This side of the cut. Yeah. So my name is RJ Mello. I'm the association, and your part. Like that's true. Your part. We'll go around the room and then I'll read off the ones on. Go ahead.
For me, your part. It's something you heard, and I on it, and everything. And your name. Well, you probably show.
Oh.
Right. Say, probably want to use an air intelligence. Well,
Cathedral Park.
Nice.
just say that. Your part.
Oh, awesome.
Colleen Wright and Cathedral.
Cool. George Park. There we go. Very nice.
Robin. Lauren. Austin. Susan. Your part.
Shames XP, also some of my.
Ooh. What about over here?
Justin, your Eric,
I live at the far other end of town, so I'm gonna go to Spring Grove and place I can.
I think we've got an important in my life, right? And
Awesome. Let's see. Yeah, we're having some tech issues with the Zoom. And our apologies, folks. If anybody, hopefully you can hear me better now. And what we did, we went around the room and everybody introduced themselves and said which park was their favorite this side of the cut. So while we get into our business, if you could drop into the chat what your favorite park is on this side of the cut, we'll share with the room. We had a lot of shouts for Pier Park, Kelly Point, Smith and Bybee. We've already got one for Chimney Dog Park. I don't think anybody said that one yet. That's a great shout. So the first item up for bid here is Matt on. Matt is on. We have put together as a board, it's a letter of support for a North Portland Greenway project. the 40-mile bike loop, they're trying to work on funding for a bridge over Columbia Boulevard. And Matt, if sure. So they need my mic to hear me. So yeah. Can you mute the Vox too? Yeah. I don't know where that's coming from. Well, I'll be quiet and let Matt speak for now, and hopefully there's no echo there.
There we go. Sorry, can you hear me now? Awesome. Okay. And you can all see the screen all right? Cool. Yeah. So we got a request for a letter of support. Basically, Portland Parks is going to be applying for a grant to build another portion of the 40-mile and North Portland Greenway Trail. So this is a bridge over Columbia Boulevard that connects to Chimney Park and will ultimately lead to connections to Kelly Point Park, to the wetlands, hopefully also to a continuation of the Slough Trail, I don't know how you say that word. So it's very exciting, bit of infrastructure here. So we just have a quick letter drafted up of support and really looking for, first of all, feedback on the text. And then once we kind of go through that, I figure we just go ahead and vote on it if that works for everyone.
Matt, could you zoom in on it?
Yeah, for sure. Sorry about that. Give me a second here. There, is that a little easier to see? I can probably zoom in a bit more.
More zoom.
More zoom. All right.
That's pretty.
How's that?
Thank you.
All right. Okay, cool. So yeah, I don't know if I just want to give folks a second to read it, or should I read it off
Go
real
ahead and
quick?
read through it, Matt.
All right. So the St. John's Neighborhood Association would like to express our support for Portland Parks and Recreation's efforts to secure funding for the construction of a pedestrian and bike bridge over North Columbia Boulevard near Chimney Park. This bridge and associated trail alignment, when constructed, will be a key piece of both the North Portland Greenway Trail and 40-mile loop trail. This route will provide safe and direct access for people of all ages to explore beautiful natural areas north of Columbia Boulevard. In concert with future planned trails, it will also enable car-free access to Kelly Point Park, the future Expo Center Sports Complex, and a variety of other destinations for both work and play in North Portland. Trails like these offer valuable recreation space for residents and visitors alike, and serve as a vital connection for the large portion of our community who either cannot or would prefer not to drive. We are excited to see this project move forward and appreciate the efforts of everyone involved in making it happen. So, open to any thoughts folks have. As far as the text, I got some feedback from board members previously, so if you have any thoughts, please go for it.
Yeah, I'd like to say something.
Go ahead, Donna.
So, I have no issue with the idea of having, this trail and having a bridge and all that. It's fine. It's great. I've always had an issue with the placement of this bridge. There are something like 2,600 people that live in the apartment complexes on Swift Way. And a lot of those folks cross Columbia Boulevard to catch a bus to go to work. And at least one person has been killed crossing Columbia Boulevard. This is about a quarter of a mile or less than half a mile, a very short distance from where the bridge is being planned. And it bothers me tremendously that the planning did not include situating it in a way that would make it accessible for those living in those apartments. So I just think it's another sort of example of not of neglecting a lot of the folks that live there are lower income, very diverse population, and I just need to get that on the record. So I'm not against the project per se, but it should have been positioned so that those folks can cross Columbia Boulevard safely to get the bus. That's all.
Got it. That's a great call out. My understanding is that it's meant to be like kind of a continuous bike trail and slash walking trail that I think that they're trying to like not have it on sidewalk alignment as much as they can, but you're right that this is a significant thing. If you want, I'd actually love to talk to you more about this and see if maybe that's something that I can push on with the city, because transportation is a big piece for me.
Mhm.
And see if there's something that we can do there, or if there's maybe even a way to incorporate the project there. Drop my email in the chat. Please feel free to shoot me an email. I'd love to chat more. Anybody else have thoughts or comments? And by the way, Don, I will also mention that that was brought up in the meeting when we do send this over to them.
We have one in the room, Matt, but I'm gonna relay it to you in a
Please.
second. So
Okay.
just hold tight while Seamus.
Hopefully folks on Zoom can hear me. This is Seamus Linsky. And back then, Metro was in charge of this project. They already got funding to build this bridge. So it's super frustrating. Parks got a hold of the project and they kind of mess things up all the time. So it's been long overdue. And last I heard,
Seamus, I lost you midway there. I don't know if you're still talking.
I think the mic from RJ is
Got it.
muted.
Yeah, it cut out mid-com.
Oh, thank you, Seamus.
Oh.
And
So
it looks like the
Seamus's
audio
comments
issues
got cut off
continue.
partway there.
The long story short is we should add a bit to the language about have them get to work. Babs, can you hear me? Babs is on the laptop and has her hand raised, so I was seeing if she would come off mute to. Yeah, it's not working. Anyway.
Maybe it was a misclick.
Yeah, I think it is. Okay.
Yeah, so for starters, I wasn't familiar with the background that Seamus was talking about. I'd love to hear more about that. I don't know if that's something that maybe you'd be willing to fill me in on, because that would actually be great background to have. And then for the work stuff, I do have a bit at the end of the second paragraph. It sounds like there's maybe a desire to strengthen that language a bit as far as commuting.
Yeah, the desire is that there's commuters going to work that could use that as a way to bike or
Got it.
travel
Okay,
to work that way.
cool. Let me make an edit on that real quick while we get together. Any other folks with comments?
Any Is there anything on Zoom? Sure. Yeah, that's fair. Well, we've done this in the past. We could motion to have the board refine take in the feedback, refine the letter appropriately, and then have the executive authority to submit the letter of support. So that is a motion that we could take instead of trying to edit this letter live and do that. So I'm curious if that's a route the membership would be interested in taking, or yes, Paul, would you like to make that motion?
I move that we agree to send a letter adopted as adjusted as it sees fit, and then send it on.
So, okay, so yeah, Paul motions. Yeah, Paul motions to provide executive authority to the board to amend the letter and submit it on behalf of the general membership. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
What we're gonna do is unanimous consent. If you are opposed to that motion, raise your hand. And if we have anybody opposed, we will take a roll call vote. Otherwise, we'll look to pass it unanimously.
I want to ask, I'm not opposed, but could we say like in advance, what is the modification going to be? Like just mentioning the things that people have mentioned and that's why it's being.
Yes, exactly. We would be taking in the feedback from Donna, from Seamus, implementing that into the letter. And yes, it would still be supportive of the Greenway project. Caroline? On Zoom, yeah, go ahead.
Well, I guess I might withdraw my opposition as long as you're not going to fundamentally change the gist of the letter and say, we insist on moving it to Swiftway. And apparently Babs wasn't able to speak, but it looks like Babs said something in the comments to the effect of perhaps locating it nearer to Swiftway would be suboptimal because it's at the bottom of a hill where trucks really shouldn't be stopping for safety reasons.
Thank you, Carolyn.
Thank you, Babs. I just feel a little frustrated that
this is Babs. I understand that I was called upon, but I wasn't hearing that. I wasn't hearing my name. I was once on the board for the npGreenway and worked on the grant requests to ODOT for this bridge. And I have a lot of opinions about how the city needs to get a move on it. And I also recently, I can look in my email to see exactly when it was, but I want to say in September or October, there was some back and forth with Dan Ryan, who is still a city commissioner from this neighborhood, who was committed to making sure that the funding went through for this. So I find this letter as it is like good intentions, but much more needs to be added to it.
Do you have specifics you'd like to suggest, or you'd be able to pass along in an email to the board to be able to add in?
Yes, I'll send onto the board letters that I have written to planners. And I also wrote an article for the North Peninsula Review about a year ago when PBOT was discussing putting it at grade rather than having the bridge. So I feel like I would just be churning again, both the history of it and then also the different groups that have stood in support for the bridge to go across.
Thanks, Babs. That'd be great. And to be clear, this is a letter of support. So yes, like ultimately what would be submitted is a letter supporting this bridge. So it would take in feedback and add nuance to this letter, but we are passing a letter of support, not, it wouldn't turn into a letter of opposition or anything like that. So
I understand that and I appreciate it. I just feel like there's an opportunity for it to be more robust.
oh, totally. Yeah, I'm sorry. I was sharing that for the audience in the room as well, as because there's been some questions in the chat about if the letter will be supportive or whatnot. So, yeah,
I can make myself available as a resource to Matt or whomever from the board.
great.
Because Babs served on the board for a long time, she might be able to be available too. Like I said, I've coordinated for a year and volunteered for a while, so we've got a lot of
Great.
Yeah, I would love to maybe grab coffee, get up to speed. This is some background that's not as familiar to me. I am familiar with the kind of tussle that was over like the at-grade crossing or not, and that's about the most recent history I have on it. So please, if you have time at some point and can be put in contact with me, I would love that. But yeah, my understanding is basically that Portland Parks has asked us to send this letter, so they really want to apply for this grant and they've gotten the clearance to do it, and they're looking for us to basically say, yeah, we want this. So that's kind of our main thrust here. But if there's anything else we can include, like, you know, hey, calling out other good aspects like the commuting part of it, that feedback is really, really helpful, and that background as well.
Hi, this is Caroline. I need to emphasize that the deadline is January 15th, which is very soon. And I confess, I'm not 100% sure if letters are okay through the 15th or if they're going to submit their application on the 15th. So I would urge this group to not draw this out beyond the 14th. Submit on the 14th would be, I think, probably best.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, like I'm perfectly fine if everyone else is with getting them this letter quickly sooner than later, and then following up because we have their email and their contact info with kind of other stuff as far as some of this background and some of this other language that Babs has been talking about, depending on how folks feel.
Yeah. Yes. Question.
I think there are a lot of good points, but there's a lot of institutional knowledge that may or may not be shared with the community. If this is, and I'm not objecting to the board amending the letter, but how is that going to be shared before the study goes out? Because I think there are a lot of good points that have been brought up, but there's a lot of institutional knowledge that may or may not align with what people agree with. So just to bring that up, I appreciate all the work that has been done, and I know it's in good faith, but I'm just curious, like, if we're going to submit on the 14th, and, you know, is there some kind of process, like in 3 days, here's the letter we're going to submit?
So in this instance, the deadline is so soon. And like this motion is basically giving the authority to submit it without sharing or getting it approved by the general membership. Like it's giving the board the authority to do what it sees is best in interest of the neighborhood. That doesn't mean we can't share it and like share this is the letter that we submitted. But in terms of like ahead of the submission, it would be really difficult in this particular instance.
Yeah,
but
it would be shared.
Yes, we can absolutely share the letter that this is the letter of support that we submitted on the North Portland Greenway. Here's why. Seamus.
Thanks.
Question.
Great. So there's the motion on the floor that has a second, and it's granting executive authority to the board to take in this feedback, finalize the letter, and submit by the deadline. Again, I'm gonna ask that anybody raise their hand who is opposed to the motion.
Can I clarify why my hand is raised? It's because I need to ask a question.
Yes, Caroline.
Okay. I want to point out to the group that 2 good letters were already submitted. One from Friends of Baltimore Woods, really focusing on the value of the connectivity to the North Portland Greenway Trail, specifically through the funded portion through Baltimore Woods, which we've certainly waited more than 10 years to get built and supposedly is being designed right now, firstly. And secondly, the North Portland Greenway Trail Group and Francie Royce wrote a really strong letter fully addressing the big picture about the wish for North Portland Greenway Trail to be a car-free trail all the way from downtown to Kelly Point Park, and really addressing the strongly the transportation. So in terms of a robust letter, 2 different robust letters have already been sent with a lot of specific points. And so I'm not strongly opposed to further beefing up this letter, but I think it does the job, which is it says our neighborhood supports the parks applying for this $6 million in funding. So I personally don't feel that it needs to be more robust, but if others do, well, I guess I won't disagree as long as it remains a letter of support. Thank you.
Thanks, Caroline. Yeah, and that is the motion. It's a letter of support, and I've actually already connected you, Babs, Seamus, and Matt on an email during this conversation. So check your inboxes, and you can continue the conversation. But is there anybody opposed to the motion on the floor? Caroline, is that a legacy hand raise, or is that opposition to the motion?
Oh, I thought I'm trying to drop it. I thought I dropped it.
No
That's
worries,
not
no.
opposition.
All right, there we go. All right. I don't see any hands raised on Zoom. I do not see any hands raised in the room. And that means unanimously approved that the board has executive authority to refine and submit the letter of support North Portland Greenway Bridge over Columbia Boulevard.
Thank you very much,
And
everyone.
thank you, Matt. Up next on the agenda, we have a guest this evening. An update on the PG&E project in Forest Park. If you don't mind coming up and taking this seat. I do have these slides up.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brooke Brownlee. I am the Senior Manager of Community Engagement for Portland General Electric. Thank you so much for taking the time. Oh. Can you guys hear me okay? He's gonna be talking, not me. I just want to do a quick intro. Okay, well, yeah. So I'm Brooke Brownlee. I'm the Senior Manager of Community Engagement for Portland General Electric. Thank you for having us today. We are here to talk about a project that is a project we are currently have with the city of Portland, and Randy is going to give kind of an overview of the project. I will pass out some slides to give you an overview. I will note that this has way more slides than we'll actually go through, but they're used as a reference. My contact information is on here as well as Randy's. So if we don't get through all questions today, or you think of something afterwards, please feel free to reach out, and we're happy to have a further conversation or answer any additional questions. So with that, I'll pass it up to Randy, and we'll switch.
Will you hang out here and run the slides?
Is this? Oh, yes. Okay, I am.
Okay. My name is Randy Franks. I'm a project manager with Portland General Electric. Should we pass the slides around? Yeah. Folks to have? We got a lot going on here. So the Harborton Reliability Project is a multi-phase project that's looking at improving the transmission infrastructure in North Portland, Northwest Portland. It's a multi-phase project. The first phase is already constructed. There's a new substation just before you get to the Wapato Bridge to go on to Sauvie Island. Second phase of that project is in progress, going up and down Highway 30. You may have noticed some of that construction over the summer. There are 2 more pieces of that to rebuild all that transmission infrastructure. The third phase is what we're here to give an update on to you folks this evening. And this is a 1/4 mile of new transmission line in an existing corridor, and then also upgrading a 1/4 mile of line adjacent to it. And this is just on the edge of Forest Park, opposite the substation, that far northern end of the park. The project is, again, addressing those transmission bottlenecks, and these are becoming more serious of an issue for the reliability of the electrical service for the region. And so the timelines associated with building this are a major factor for us. can go to that second slide, please. So you can see a panoramic view of Forest Park here. I just want to locate where the project is. It's at the extreme far right of that photograph. And some of the things that it will do are reduce the likelihood of service interruptions to North and Northwest Portland during extreme weather on peak demand days. That's a major issue that we foresee in the near future without upgrades to the transmission grid. I want to show you a couple other things about the project so you can get a picture of what we're proposing and then sort of explain how we got there. It's a little backwards, but can you go to the bird's eye photo simulation?
That one?
Yeah, we kind of already located it in the overall park. Keep going. One more. Yeah, there you go. So this is about 6 or 7 pages in, but you can see a bird's eye view here from above the substation, looking at that hillside. The photo on the top is what exists there today. There's 2 major transmission lines on the left side operated by Bonneville. There's another major transmission line that PGE operates on the right side. And what we're proposing to do is add a second line in that corridor that's been part of an easement for power lines since the early 70s. And so we're just building that short connection, about 1,400 feet, to tie into lines that are already up there at the top of that hillside. So that's what the project is. We did not take proposing a project in Forest Park lightly. In fact, what I spent a good solid year when I first joined the project doing was proving that we had to build it here in Forest Park and that alternatives were not viable. And so a lot of the pages later in your slide deck show what some of those alternatives would look like. They're much, much larger projects. They don't actually accomplish as much good for the grid as we need. They also can impact homes and businesses nearby to create the project in the first place. Whereas this is, like I mentioned, an easement that's been set aside for power lines for the last 50 years. To build the project in Forest Park, the regulations require us to demonstrate that there is no alternative outside the park. And then we also need to minimize what we do propose to be just that what's necessary to meet the need. And then finally, whatever impacts we haven't managed to minimize out need to be mitigated. And so the rest of the slides in here sort of talk to that. And that is what the project is. But I wanted folks to get a sense that we didn't start with all of this stuff. We kind of came to it through a pretty intensive process, knowing that proposing work inside Forest Park is a
Touchy subject.
very touchy subject. Agreed. I'm a resident of Portland. We hike in the park. My kids got their start in hiking, not at this far end, not on these steep hills, but we understand that and take that very seriously.
There's a quick question on Zoom.
Oh.
And the question was, wasn't this already voted down by the last city council?
It has not been voted on by the city council.
Thank you.
Other questions? I want to reiterate, just so we're clear on the kind of timeline for the project. So, and it's in one of the other overview slides, but the project timeline, essentially, the project needs to be built by 2028 in order to avoid those reliability issues we were talking about, which would have the potential to affect your community. So if the project is not built, then there's the potential that during high extreme, think of like heat wave days or times when everybody has their air conditioner on, there would need to be rolling outages in order to meet electricity demand, because we basically have a bottleneck in this area that it needs to be solved with this project. So that is the direct impact to you as a community. Yes.
Do I need a mic?
No, you're very.
Okay, so I understand the need for this. I'm not a Luddite or anything. I do use electricity. And I'll just tell you, my son is a hydraulic engineer, works with wetlands. And the feds are very clear about this. You can dry out wetlands, but if I want to drain an acre of wetlands, I've got to create 3 new acres of wetlands. And I said, why 3 to 1? He says, because when you create a wetland, it's not really like a wetland. It's like, it takes 100 years for the native plants and fish and everything, I just wish, instead of saying, well, we'll plant different shrubs there and all that, you said, and we're gonna buy some land here that's 3 times what we're digging, and we're gonna extend Forest Park there or something. Just saying.
Yeah, I'm
They
curious
kind of-
where, yeah,
they
you're
kind of-
just proving, like, that's what sounds
But I
exciting.
think you're talking about what you're gonna do in the content, aren't you?
So
Yeah, where?
there is a very small, low quality wetland. It's actually located on the access road that was put in the 70s. It's kind of cut into the hillside, and that's just sort of sunk in as groundwater's flowed. So it's invasive to like reed canary grasses and those sorts of things. And I'm not the professional ecologist, I've just heard him a couple times. So they're very low quality. They're only there because it's an access road. And what we're proposing as part of our basket of mitigation options is working with ecologists from the Parks Department. There are other identified wetlands inside the park that are potential breeding sites for red-legged frogs. And so we would fund the Parks Department to go improve those wetlands inside the park on site.
I wasn't just talking about wetlands, I was talking about the same principle for forest.
I see.
Cut down an hectare of forest, make 3 new acres of forest.
I do think there's a question on Zoom, perhaps.
Oh, Barbara.
Same.
Hello?
Hi,
Can you hear me?
we can.
Oh, good. Thank you for coming to the meeting. I have a question about the alternative routes. My understanding is that the Forest Park Plan requires alternative routes are possible, that those need to be used rather than doing more harm to the nature assets in the park. So here's my question. The studies that you did on these alternative routes have not been made public that I know of. And in fact, the 2 alternative routes that your own consultant came up with have only been made public relatively recently. Can you share the study of those 2 routes with the public? The plan?
Barbara, are you talking about the report by the Toth Associates?
Correct.
Yeah, so that report looked at 8 different routes.
Right.
It said all of them have a severe impediment, which means all 8 of those are infeasible in their terminology. 6 of them had multiple severe impediments. 2 of them only had 1. And so their recommendation was, knowing that the bar is so high for Forest Park, you may want to investigate these further. And that's what's summarized in, or not summarized, it's summarized in the application narrative, and it's described in more detail in the full-blown alternatives analysis that's about 40 pages and is attached to the application. So those have been investigated fully. The Toth recommendations, which says all 8 of those are infeasible, was still investigated further by PGE, and the project website has all those materials as well as they're posted publicly with the city.
Okay, so PGE did actually do further studies, because the Toth study was fairly, it was just a start in the direction of a study. It wasn't actually a study. But you guys did more study. That's what I would be interested in reading.
And that's in the alternatives analysis as part of the application.
We can send that as a follow-up.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Thanks for coming. I'm just curious about the actual number of trees that will be removed, because I see 6 selected trees with 1.7 acres.
Thank you.
How can you put that in a number?
I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but the idea here is that trees and power lines are only incompatible when they come into contact with each other. And so these are major transmission lines up on large steel structures, very high in the air. And so not every single tree that's there is a safety threat or an operational issue. And so the removal in that 4.7 acres is done sort of tree by tree. What species, how tall will it grow? Could it fall into the lines? And so that's why we describe it as selective removal. It is not a blanket removal of every single tree and, keeping it as a grassland. It's intended to be a low growing, shorter stature tree and a native shrub habitat when when we're complete with the project.
It's 376 trees.
Oh, thanks, Brett. She's got the fine print.
Those are the number of trees that would be impacted. Yes.
Just a second question. What's the duration of the construction project? Does it impact traffic?
We're expecting it to take 2 summers, 2 building seasons. You know, this is in the Northwest Hills overlay, so exposed soil is not allowed between October and May, end of April. So we're expecting it's those 2 summer work windows.
Because
the impact to traffic would basically just be a lane closure on US 30 with ODOT getting equipment on and off the hillside, and some similar impacts on Skyline Boulevard. Because that hill is so steep, we're planning to access the bottom of the hill from US 30 and the top of the hill coming in on BPA Road. So it's largely confined inside the park.
All right. We've got some in the chat here. This one's pretty long. Can you read this? Or I feel like it, so that'd be easier than me reading it. But maybe can the room read this? Probably not, right? Yeah, I'll just read it out loud. Already heard I can see it down here, it's fine. I already heard PG's presentation down in Linton a few months ago. Well, I've devoted the last 20 years of my life to conserving and restoring oak woodlands. When I protect our forests, I'm reluctantly considering supporting the line through Forest Park because energy resilience is so important. Power outages can be devastating for many. PG seems to make a case that other routes won't work as well. My argument is that if they are able to expand the line to Forest Park, that they need to really take mitigation seriously. They can't only plant new trees, they need to provide summer support water, maybe even screen new seedlings to prevent deer damage. Also, it's very hard to create wetlands, so maybe another wetland can be protected instead. And we need to look closer at data centers, the real energy hubs being built to support AI. And then from Philip, we have how will you mitigate negative impacts to vulnerable populations of red-legged frogs? How can you go beyond this to improve upon the current challenges facing the red-legged frogs? You had already mentioned that, but is there anything you would want to add about the red-legged frog?
I'll just note if our ecologist is here, you can speak to this a lot more deeply, but we do have in the mitigation plan all of the literature and research that's available on red-legged frogs in that area to determine what the level of impact is. And so that all of that study has been done as part of the application, and then the mitigation that flows from that is what I described earlier.
And we can provide that as a follow-up as well, so that you guys aren't having to dig through.
What is PG&E doing to protect these forests from potential fires started by power lines, especially in light of the fires that are currently happening, as well as have happened in Oregon and California over the last several years?
So the main issue here is that the wires need to be high enough off the ground to operate safely. This is the highest voltage that we operate in the area. The structures are very tall, and transmission lines are generally in cleared rights of way because tree touching power lines at this voltage is a problem no matter what time of year it happens. These lines need to be in service to provide the power across the grid throughout the region. And what I described earlier with that tree by tree analysis is really that analysis we're doing here for the operational safety of those lines, making sure that those trees can't fall into the lines. And if that is a potential, then we propose to remove it as part of the project.
And I would also note that generally upgrading the equipment also helps further mitigate wildfire risk. There we go, because you're replacing it with newer equipment. And then some of our plans also include removing some noxious weeds, which are ladder fuels for wildfires. So that would also be another mitigation measure as part of the project.
And that's proposed throughout the park, not just in the locality of the power line corridor. That's to benefit the resources of the overall forest health.
And I would note too that, and we can have somebody come back as a follow-up, but we have a very active wildfire mitigation team that is constantly looking at our infrastructure within the area and working with our vegetation management team to make sure that we're reducing wildfire risk wherever possible. So we're happy to come back at a future time to talk about that project or that work in more detail too.
Curious if, since you're thinking about the lines, about the Harborton substation itself, if that is going to be interesting in size, capacity, right on the water, you know, to the land around there.
Yeah, that project was completed as the first phase. Simultaneously, just to the north is about a 70-acre wetland that was fully restored and I put into a conservation easement. Back in the 90s, this was a fossil fuel small generating plant, and so that land has all been salvaged, and now it's this modernized energy hub, the substation, and then that 70-acre wetland.
So is it increasing in size?
The substation is not. Nope.
It won't.
Nope. Can you scroll to the last slide?
Yeah.
If there's any other questions, we can do that. I just wanted to.
I don't know. You can go on, I can ask that question then.
Oh, sure. Well, I was just going to leave with the timeline.
Taking a second. There we go.
Yep. So the application has been with the city since the end of October. Your review process is completed. There's a hearing with the land use hearings officer at the end of the month on the 29th of January. And then obviously the process after that is the decisions, and a potential appeal with the city council could be heard in April or May. So that's the time frame of where we are in the project.
Will there be effects on Highway 70?
There'll be short-term lane closures or probably some complete closures when we pull the new wires across, but that's a relatively routine shutdown to take with our dog. Not every single day. But...
I do think there's a couple more questions on Zoom, but very quickly, there are groups opposed to this project. I believe the Forest Park Conservancy or Forest Park. Forgive me, I don't remember the name, but what would you say, like, what are their main arguments been to the opposition, and what is your response to their opposition?
Okay.
I think the main concern has been, let's really be sure there's no alternative outside of Forest Park. And I can definitely understand the perspective that this is an urban jewel that needs to be protected at all costs. And my response to that is, I've worked very hard for 2 years to find out a way to avoid that impact. And we haven't. What we've demonstrated is we do need to use this area that's been set aside for power lines for 50 years, and then use all the mechanisms of the Forest Park Natural Resource Management Plan, of the city ordinance passed in 2023 to mitigate complex environments inside Forest Park, and use those tools that we have, because we don't have any other alternative.
And there's also been just some general, I think, misunderstandings about the project. I have a second handout that is just an FAQ that kind of addresses some of those questions. So I'll pass that out for you guys too, just so you have that information about, you know, why we need the project, and to Randy's point about the alternatives analysis, et cetera. So we want to make sure that people feel like they have the opportunity to ask questions and have them answered, et cetera. So like I said, if you guys have follow-up questions after you sit with it and you're like, wait, I have this question I really want to know the answer to, we're happy to provide additional information.
There's one more on Zoom, and then two more on Zoom real quick. We're going to go with Tom's. Duncan, if you don't mind scrolling down. So are advanced conductors with carbon or composite cores being considered?
They are advanced conductors, but they're not carbon or composite core. They're able to operate at a higher than standard temperature, which is what makes them advanced.
And then if you scroll down to the bottom, I see a section on the timeline for comment period. Is there a link somewhere for public comments?
We can provide that.
Okay. They will provide a link to follow up for public comment. And that last question.
Yeah, that's all right. And this can be quick, but I assume this it's not terribly close to CEI hub, but it is just upstream. And I'm curious, is there some information you can share after this meeting with how that's being coordinated? You know, electricity, water, and volatile fuels might not mix so well in a disaster. So just curious if there's some information that's been going on.
Yeah, I could say from the project's perspective, there's not a direct connection. It's important that the power stays on for everybody that uses electricity. And as far as critical infrastructure, critical energy, I don't even know what it stands for, so I'll work.
You were close.
Spot on.
Yeah, I think what Randy said, I mean, we do disaster planning. We have a whole team that's responsible for looking at that just generally across our service area. I don't believe that we did like specifically looking at this project connected to that, but we can follow up.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for making time for us. Yeah, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
All right. Oh no, the echo. Okay, we're reached the part of the agenda where we'll have some community organizations who are present provide any updates they wish to share. So the first on the list, the St. John's Boosters. If I know Laura's here, I saw her on earlier.
Hi there. Yes.
Hey, Laura.
Hey, everybody. So Laura Strive, I am now the president of the St. John's Boosters Business Association. So I'll just give a quick little update. First of all, I want to thank everyone who came to the tree lighting in December and supported our small businesses during the holiday season, because shopping in our local businesses is huge for our community. Know that January is a slower month, so if you're able to go to one of our little businesses or restaurants or coffee shops, that is very much appreciated. It is a slower month. We're not doing a ton. Our board is meeting later this week to finalize all of our events and planning for this year. So my next month's update will have a lot more information for everybody. But in February, we're going to be doing our love letters to our businesses again. We'll have little note cards. They'll be at like 10 different locations around St. John's, where you can write a little love note to your favorite business. And then we'll have different drop boxes around town to drop those in, and we give those to all of the businesses on Valentine's Day. And it is very heartwarming, especially in the winter months, to hear how much the community loves and supports our local businesses. We will have those specific spots nailed down, and follow us on our Instagram for those specific informations. The Instagram, if you don't have it, is just St. John's Boosters. And I'm looking forward to a great year. We're going to revive and kind of tweak some of our events that we've been doing over the last few years. So yeah, that's what we got for the boosters so far. Thank you for having us.
Thanks, Laura. Any questions for her? Cool. Thanks again. Anybody from St. John's Center for Opportunity on the call or in the room want to provide an update? Okay. I know Donna had to run. So I will do a brief update on the emergency route conversation. And for those of you who aren't familiar, like the 30-second Cliff Notes is all the bridges over the railroad cut will fail if there's a large earthquake, or maybe even just like a minor earthquake. And additionally, they're all in bad shape. Half are weight restricted. There will be like, we're on the path to weight restrictions on others too. So they're just all like in bad shape in general, let alone if we interact with a big earthquake. St. John's Neighborhood Association is part of the coalition, the Emergency Route Coalition, that's trying to work on this issue and get the bridges replaced, or at least our emergency route bridges, which are designated as Columbia Boulevard and Lombard. A fun wrinkle to all this is that 3 of the 4 bridges are owned by the railroad. And so we can't do anything like structurally to them even if we had the money and wanted to tomorrow. The one bridge that isn't owned by the railroad is Columbia Boulevard. So the main development is Representative Travis Nelson at the state legislature this session is trying to work into a bill to get the funding to get a full engineering study of the Columbia Boulevard bridges really that would need to be built and end up needing to be 2 bridges because it would go over the railroad and then Columbia Way. With that funding, if it is secured, it would make PBOT competitive for grant monies to replace the bridge and build a seismic resilient bridge on Columbia Boulevard. So that's the main update is I believe Donna is going to be drafting a letter of support for what Representative Nelson is going to be presenting, and then it'll come to the meeting looking, to share what's in that and confirm our support for that letter. The project on the other bridges that are railroad owned are honestly probably like a 30-year project. So buckle up and get ready because we'll be working on that for a very long time. But that's where we are. There's potential movement on the Columbia Boulevard Bridge, and Representative Nelson is sort of spearheading that in Salem. Any questions? Yeah.
Just quickly, like, is there a way that we can reach out to Mr. Nelson? And what's the timeline? Do you have any sense of, I mean, is it this legislative session, or, are we looking at next year?
Yeah.
And the letter, I guess, appropriately.
Good question. And for on Zoom, the question was basically how can we reach out to Representative Nelson and what does the timeline look like? So this year is the long session, and they're doing a transportation package in this session. Okay. The session starts January 21st. It starts on Tuesday. It runs until, I believe, early June. So there's going to be a long period of time here that this will be kind of slowly maneuvering and working its way through those systems. So it's probably next meeting is a instance where by then I'm sure we'll have a letter that we are able to look at and see what's been drafted in terms of supporting this. Representative Nelson's email, I can put it in the chat and I also share this, but it's just rep.travisnelson@oregonlegislature.gov. And anybody that's a public email on their legislative website as well. Anybody can reach out. So if you do want to voice support or ask questions or anything like that, you can also reach out to Representative Nelson's team as a resource. Amy Beth is chief of staff, and she's been really, really great in working and sharing information with us and being a good partner. So so hopefully we know by May or June if there's the funding to do a full engineering study and maybe move that project forward. So there's at least one way out of here when disaster strikes. And I'm looking at Paul and Paul here, the neighborhood emergency team members in the audience. Yes, you're in charge when it happens. You're in charge. I hope you have a plan ready. I know they have a plan ready. Any questions on Zoom? Let's see. It looks like Rep. Nelson and Senator Lou Frederick have a town hall on Saturday, February 8th at 10 a.m. at Alberta Abbey. So we can share that out, but that would be a good place to engage on this. Senator Frederick is on the Transportation Committee, so he actually has a pretty powerful voice if he wishes to use it on this issue. And I think he would wish to use it on this issue if we let him know he should. So Senator Frederick would be a good person to reach out to about this topic and making sure that it's on his radar. Oh, he's no longer on the committee. Tom, you got all the good gossip. Thank you.
Yeah, he was because of changes in the Senate. He is just in charge of education, so he's now chair of the Education Committee, but he had to drop transportation.
Got it. Thank you, Tom. And it might be right back to you, Tom, actually. Is anybody from the St. John's Food Share who would like to provide an update of any kind? Ooh, from the universe.
Yeah, sorry. So thank you everyone who contributed to St. John Food Share via the Willamette Week giving guide or other ways. St. John Food Share did meet its goal of $25,000.
Awesome. Thanks, Tom. Any other community groups or individuals who want to provide an update, bring a question or a comment or concern to the floor?
I could very briefly speak for Friends of Baltimore Woods. Mainly, we seem to be having Solve work parties. I believe it's on the second Saturday of the month, and Solve should have Baltimore Woods listed on their website. But the main thing I wanted to call out is that once again, we will be partnering with Sparrowhawk Native Plants. I'm not quite yet sure when ordering begins this spring, but the pickup date will be in mid-April at the St. John's Church.
Great. Thanks, Caroline. And again, for anybody that didn't hear, it's Friends of Baltimore Woods. Caroline, is your website up to date with that information, or is it going to be up there soon?
Well, I'll have to check. I believe it's up to date, and I'll check and make sure.
Great. Thank you. Yes. This is not a paid advertisement. Any updates, questions, comments, concerns from the room, from Zoom? All right.
Hello, can I ask a question? I'm new here.
Yes. Hi, Megan.
Hi. I live on Willamette and Philadelphia, basically Willamette and the St. John's Bridge, and some townhomes, and there has been a houseless community, bunch of tents that have popped up underneath the St. John's Bridge. And lately they have been starting fires and have been bumping music until 6 a.m. I tried to confront them and ask if they could keep it down, and was almost attacked with a bat. I went to the police. They said there was nothing they can do. I'm just concerned because they've been starting fires and getting really rowdy, and I'm just wondering if there's anything can be done, or if anyone has noticed this and just kind of wanted to bring it to the community's attention.
Yeah, and thank you for sharing, Megan. I think Justin had to run. We have a safety and livability team on the board that would be the right people to reach out to about this. I'll drop the email in the chat.
That would be
they
great.
have regular conversation and interaction with both the police department and other public safety bureaus at the city to help relay concerns like this and problem solve. So they'll be able to share your concerns with the right, right party, right place in the city, and then continue the conversation from there. So I'm dropping.
Yeah, and I've reported the campsite as
and for anybody in the room, it's just salt@stjohnspdx.org. So if you ever have any concerns, you can reach out to that email address, and they'll take that and collect and plug you into the right place.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Hi.
Hi, I'm new as well, and I'm Megan's neighbor. This is a kind of a new occurrence. I've been residing here in St. John's for about 17 years. So this homeless camp underneath the bridge is new, and these are not just normal homeless people. They're nefarious, breaking up pallets, causing ruckus. It's just not safe when we've spent all this money to do the restoration, and so many people come to take pictures of the beautiful arches, and you have this homeless encampment that just totally destroys the history of the St. John's Bridge.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. Yeah, we hear you, Cindy. And yeah, the best we're going to be able to do is connect to the resources that we have connection to, and hopefully we can get those neighbors connected into resources, maybe into the drop-in center that's opening this month in St. John's, and hopefully to the support that they need. So please reach out to the SALT email address, and Karina, who's been an amazing chair of that team, can continue the conversation, and we can participate and help as much as we can.
All right, thank you. And they're now, they got chairs hanging from the rafters too now, so that's a safety hazard.
Sure. Thank you. Anybody in the room? Okay. What we will do now is move on to board updates. So we'll cycle through any board member who has an update that's important to share with the general membership. Very briefly, I put pretty much everything we know about the library in the latest newsletter. So if you do not get our newsletter, visit our website and be sure to sign up, or sign up in the sheet at the back of the room if you're in here. The mobile library visited Cathedral Park this past week. We had about 48 hours notice. We shared it on social media. They had 14 people visit. They're going to be doing every other Wednesday at Cathedral Park, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m., at least through February. They're hoping to extend that further. They're planning to extend that further. It's just not, the ink isn't dry yet, it seems. And then they're going to be starting programming at the St. John's Community Center as well. That is a similar situation where they have the first date. They are basically sorting out staffing before they can finalize the future dates. But as it was shared with us, and I want to bring this up so I have the language exactly right. The schedule has been finalized, and they can confirm they will be there on January 16th, which is just a few days from now. What is that? That's Thursday, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. They have future dates reserved through March. They're just working to confirm staffing. And that community center programming is to provide a small collection of high-interest library materials, information about other library resources, and story time and technology help as staffing allows. So
no holds, no pickups, no returns.
not as the way they've described that here, no. The most update on that front, so the two sort of things are the mobile library and the St. John's Community Center. That's like the stuff that we know is happening. They're finalizing dates. Those are real. Under other potential items, basically, they said they're still working to finalize details for programming at Charles Jordan and continuing conversations with local organizations about potential outreach opportunities. In addition, they are evaluating options for a temporary holds pickup location, including book lockers or the possibility of offering a temporary location. As more details become available, they'll provide an update. So they're, frustratingly, because the library's been closed since October, they're investigating options for that. So we'll continue to ask for updates. We'll continue to press them to have that happen, but and see where that gets us in terms of finally getting some kind of concrete resources in that department, other than just go to Kenton.
Do you know, did they lay our librarians off during this time? Or where are our librarians?
Yeah, so for Zoom, the question was if they laid off our librarians during this. They went and sent them to other branches because they said that there was staffing challenges already throughout the system. And so to help with those staffing challenges, they have reallocated the St. John's staff to other places where they were struggling.
And now they can't staff programs they're trying to set up for us.
That is correct. Now they can't staff the programs they're trying to set up for us.
It says the mobile library does take returns.
Yes.
So they have a capacity, like, I'm a teacher, I am returning 30 books.
Yeah.
So they have the capacity to take my 30 books, but not for me to take another 30. Like, it's part of school.
Right, yes, yeah. And that's
So
the,
they'll take my books, but they won't.
yes, they will take returns at the mobile library. So the location of Cathedral Park, there's very specific conditions of which the mobile library can actually mobile library. And they basically are like the amount of places in St. John's that fit the criteria to bring the mobile library to are like 3. There's not enough up, and Cathedral Park is one, and then they're still investigating, I guess, the St. John's Church as the other option, as a lot that could work for the mobile library. I think part of the issue that we'll always encounter is if they're going to look to staff it, they're going to look to staff it during business hours for their employees, and that will always be at the 11 to 3 in the day, right? Like it won't be ideal. Yeah. So yeah, apparently that the farmer's market parking lot didn't meet the right conditions. I don't know. Yeah, I'm just what I've been told.
They listed as a condition, place for employees to use the restroom. You wouldn't have the farmer's market.
Yes, yeah, you need a place to use restrooms. It's quite a cumbersome, so it needs to have certain like dimensions to turn into and turn around in and do all those things. And so it could be that there's not adequate entry space to that farmer's market lot. Yeah, I don't know. It's yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Have these metrics been shared?
Um,
Like with the group? I'm just saying, like, I'm an architect, I deal with all this stuff all the time, so like, can we write another letter and go, look, here are 7 locations that I can prove to you work? And are we writing more letters? Are we doing anything as a community to do this, or is it just kind of happening in the background? Not that you all aren't doing a lot of work, I don't mean to.
Yeah.
Like,
What I said was shared at the previous association meeting.
Yeah, we've had them to the meeting.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
We've had them to the meeting in October and to a meeting before that in, I believe, June. And so that, yeah, it's been shared at multiple meetings, but it's always like, it's never like specific details of like, we need a 30-foot turning radius or something. Right. It's just like, it's in that sort of vague, we need to be able to, well, other than use the bathroom, like that's a specific detail of a restroom, but like there's not like a spec of like the parking lot must be this big and have this area or this entrance and this exit. It's just kind of, it's been shared as that there are certain sort of specifications that must be met. And so
Someone could make something like that, like they could create a public document. They just aren't.
Of where the thing could fit.
Specifications.
Sure, yeah.
They're
Yeah.
not writing it. It's a wonderful pamphlet. That's like,
Yeah.
They probably haven't thought of citizens input into that question.
Sure,
But
yeah.
it's not a bad idea. They'd be willing to circulate it. So,
Yeah, I was just curious if maybe there were emails that maybe there were specifics shared that.
So, and then it does look like it's shared in the chat that the Kenton Library will be closing on February 14th. They're reopening the North Portland Library. So, further away.
Yeah, well, no, but it's not,
So,
if it's by CC, it's on the other side of.
so yeah, we'll have to go farther. We'll have the North Portland Library and the Northwest Library on 23rd will be the options that they tell us to go to. That I don't know. And when we asked that before, they also did not know. So just like our library is supposed to be closed for 18 months, but will it? We'll see. We know how construction projects go.
So sorry, just one quick.
Yeah.
I mean, are we working on any sort of formal letter or anything again? Like, is there an ongoing thing? Because this is not just a small thing for book drop-offs and receiving. This is a community aspect, which I understand.
Yeah.
There are dates for maybe children and some, but like,
yeah,
and I've spoken with a number of our older citizens who used to go to this library
Yeah.
as a means of socialization.
Yeah.
It's not just the typical thing. So like,
So they have our official request. We've created, approved, and shared a letter with the 7 requests of the neighborhood. And that's what they're working off of basically right now as being our ongoing requests as a neighborhood, are from that letter and the 7 things that were in there. So.
and that was done with.
I just think for the record, it's good to know that, I mean, I've not been involved in this personally, but in the first meetings, it seemed like they weren't even gonna do the mobile library. I mean, they were shut it down for 18 months.
They were going to do targeted outreach to like certain apartment buildings and things like that.
Yeah. And so I think they've moved quite a bit, and I think they are engaged. And you didn't mention demonstration, by the way, which was good activism.
Yeah. At the groundbreaking for the renovation project, I don't know, 20 people maybe or so, 20, something in that department. We're outside across the street at the groundbreaking. Chair Vega Peterson did come over, as well as Director Annie Lewis. Someone from Chair Vega Peterson's team has reached out asking for a conversation. So that should be, I'm going to be meeting with that person this week. So we also have our new District 2 representative, Shannon Singleton, who just took office as a resource for us to reach out to about this as well. So I think that is actually the best route if you're an individual who is interested in advocating on this. The easiest way for you is actually with Shannon Singleton and with our District 2 representative, because that's their job. Like, their job is constituent service. We need to be emailing and reaching out to her to then go and also do this work for us as well. The library's been good about engaging with us, and Director Lewis has been having these conversations in good faith. But I think as a community, it's needing to especially get our commissioner coming along and making it sure that she is pushing as hard on this as we all are and have been, by doing the demonstration and by providing the letter and by having these conversations with the library. So that would be my, I think, best call to action for anybody here on Zoom is to reach out to Shannon Singleton and make sure that she knows that she needs to be working on this. And I'm not saying that she isn't, but the more input to her, I think the more pressure her and her team will apply to have the library department provide a better solution.
Make sure to mention your perfect voter.
Yeah. So it was shared. Yeah, Maria, do you have information about the Kenton Library closure? Because, and I see your hand raised there. Go ahead.
Yeah, hi, I'm Maria Toban Lopez. He, she, her pronouns, and actually I'm a bilingual Spanish library assistant for the St. John's Library. So I will say, I don't know what is public, but as far as I know from the Kenton side, for the question that was asked earlier, yes, us library employees that were at St. John's, we have been all relocated to other libraries. So thankfully we are still employed. We are moving further and further away from our home location, however, with the closure of many other libraries. So Kenton is closing. It is being shared now, at least locally in Kenton, that it is 2/14, so it is Valentine's Day that we are closing. And this one is not going to be one of the big projects like St. John's. It's going to be one of those refreshes. So those ones are estimated for anywhere from 4 to 6 months, unless anything happens to the building and the construction portion of it. But I just wanted to come on to here and just give my kudos and my support for the St. John's Neighborhood Association in fighting for resources for the community. Because we want to be there for you. We want to be back. We want to go home. We want to be here serving you, and especially for all of our marginalized communities that are living inside of St. John's. We want to be there. We want to be represented. And unfortunately, we're not involved in those talks as frontline staff. And we're kind of finding out all that information with you at the same time. But know that we are still always thinking about our community, and we just value all the support that you've been giving to advocating for the library to come back to St. John's.
Thank you, Maria. I think I speak for everybody saying we miss you, and we look forward to having you back up here when it does reopen. And that is, this conversation started, I first met with Annie Lewis in early May, to try to prepare for the closure and to say we need a plan in place for when it closes. But that was because the manager of the St. John's Library pulled us aside when they were doing the feedback for the design of the library and said, we're going to need a temporary library and we need to start this outreach now. And so the library staff at the St. John's Library has been amazing, and it's too bad that they're now being sent off to faraway lands of, I don't know, a 20-minute drive away, but they've been on this, and it's just kind of the frustration elsewhere in the system, I guess, that has led us to where we are. So they've been great advocates for us. I wish they were a little bit more involved in the solutions for these projects. Yeah. Okay, so we've got to move on. Sorry, we're over time here. There's vice chair in the way back. That's Duncan. He's the vice chair of the St. John's Neighborhood Association.
Sorry about the sound.
You're fired.
So
do you coming up?
Yeah, I can come up.
Okay. Sweet. Yeah, I'll just be very brief in my update. So we have hit our line item budgeted allotment for facilities rentals for the rest of this fiscal year, which goes until June 30th. So we discussed at the last board meeting. I'm going to propose this amendment. Our motion very shortly is just to increase that budgeted amount. We do have that money in our general fund. It's not that we don't have the money, it's just not budgeted to that line item. To increase that line item amount by 1,400, so that we can not have to come back to the general membership to ask for additional dollars, to move this around, to have this conversation every time we meet as a board. So we can go to any facility. There are multiple options within St. John's for our next couple of meetings and be able to pay for it straight out, again, without having to come back to the general neighborhood association membership.
And for context, the reason we have hit our line item is historically, the schools let us meet there for free every month, except in 2 months in the summer when they were closed. So the budgeted line item was for 2 months of a venue in the summer. And then they recently figured out that they were letting us use the schools for free by mistake, a mistake they've been making for 17 years and they didn't realize.
it's not just us,
Ye-
it's also the PTAs
Yeah.
and like any.
Yeah.
Yeah.
PTA.
The PTA.
So now we have no free space to use, and so now we have to pay for every space that we use. And we did not have a line item in our budget prepared for that because we were operating under the way it had been operating. So that is why we need to adjust.
Yes, yeah, thank you. Excellent context.
Yeah.
Yes.
They were like, oh, it was only supposed to be 2006, 2007. We're like, oh, really?
Yeah. So with that, I would move that we adjust the budgeted line item amount of facility rentals. Add that additional $1,400, gross it up by 1,400.
I will second that.
Ashley seconds that motion. Is there any further debate? Questions, comments, concerns? No. Okay, then we'll do the by unanimous consent again. If you are opposed to increasing the line item, please raise your hand and we'll take a roll call vote. Otherwise, we'll pass it unanimously and adjust that line item. Anybody on Zoom? I'm seeing none anywhere. Motion passes. Thanks, Duncan.
Thank you. That's my update.
Thanks, folks. Yeah. Great. Okay. We will, I guess, speaking of dollars and cents, we'll do the treasurer's report. Bernadine? I will share it up here for those on Zoom.
There are treasurer's reports on the back table if you didn't get it when you came in. General checking account. This is from November 10th to January 12th, yesterday. Beginning balance was $8,401.56. We had no income, but we had expenses for the Oregon Department of Justice, $20. That's the filing fee annual for the CT-12. Since we're a nonprofit, we have to register with them to prove that we're a charitable organization. MailChimp, which is web services for our email, $38.25 for December 3rd. Give Guide, this was December 27th, $100. That is our donation to the St. John's Food Share. They were part of the Give Guide through Willamette Week and stuff, and that had been approved by the general membership to do. Then we had MailChimp, January 3rd of $38.25 for the email web services, for total expenses of $196.50. Ending balance, $8,205.06. We have restricted a Metro grant that covers our cleanup days and those type of events that we do. And that is $3,085.60. So unrestricted, we have $5,119.46. Then we have an art fund. We had a same date range, beginning balance, $0, no income, no expenses, ending balance, $0. This was a restricted fund from many, many years ago for the art mural that's on the side of a grocery outlet. And the funds that were left, part of it, most of it went for repairs in the last couple of years to that art mural. And the last $100 was spent for the paint and stuff for the painting the intersection through Safer Together and stuff, and they did a painting of the street on North Tyler and stuff. And so we have used that, all of that money that had been allotted for artwork and stuff, we've used it. So we're at zero. Now, our bottle drop account, same date range. We had a beginning balance of $303.70. We had bags dropped of $69.80. We had no expenses. We have a balance of $373.50 in our bottle drop account. Any questions?
How long do we have to report on the art fund if there's nothing in it?
Say that again, sorry.
How long do we have to continue reporting on the art fund if there's nothing in it?
If there's nothing in the art fund, how long do we have to continue to report on it?
That will be decided by the board what to do with it. I can't just go and close it out until the bank get rid of it or whatever. The board might consider renaming it for special projects or some other event or something that they want to do. That's going to be up to the board's decision what to do.
Got it.
Thank you.
Anything from anybody on Zoom?
I don't see anything on Zoom. Yeah, nothing in the chat. Nothing in the room.
And I do have bottle drop bags if anybody needs them.
Yes.
Missed the last meeting, so I don't know what the current status is of the bottle return.
The current status of the proposed bottle drop redemption center on Lombard. The scientific term is it's on ice. Basically, my read of the situation is OBRC knows that location is not a workable location for them, and they continue to seek different places to put a redemption center. It's technically still up in the air until they find another location for it. But they still have not applied with OLCC, who would be the ones to approve it. And from every conversation I've had or others have had with them, I would be incredibly surprised if they ever did for that specific location. So, yeah, I think we're going to kind of be waiting for them to find another location for it. And until then, it's kind of just waiting, honestly. That's my best read of it. Thanks, Bernadine.
And it goes to
Mhm.
to do the bottle return. You just put it in the normal bag drop. And it just goes to the center.
Do it, or if you go to Safeway.
So you put it wherever it is,
Yeah.
but big blue bag goes.
Yeah, they'll scan, it has a tag on it.
Yeah.
Do any other board members present have an update they wish to share?
I do.
Paul, come on up.
Now, where am I talking to?
You're sitting here facing the room and they'll hear you.
Okay, great. So, many or most of you are.
No, Paul.
Have a program.
You gotta get
Sitting.
Yeah. Because that way,
I can't
yeah.
really
Yeah.
Most of you know that we have a program called Safer Together, in which SJNA helps people organize block parties. And this will be the third year we've done it. And we've gotten so it's pretty good. I think we can make it really easy for you all to host a block party. We have the stuff, and we have the know-how, and we have this team. I wrote to the former hosts and some of the other people that were associated, and we have 23 people said they wanted to get involved. So we're having a kickoff meeting tomorrow, and I'm sort of shocked by the level of support. So it's going to be a good year for block parties. It's just up on the website. We have 5 people signed up already, and we haven't started advertising this. So if you better get your date now, because it's going to fill up. Some of the green stickers are there, but just go to the website, click, you'll see where to click, leave your name, somebody will call you and we'll take it from there.
Where's the meeting tomorrow?
My house. Would you like to come? See me later. If you'd like to come to the meeting tomorrow, see me.
It's stjohnspdx.org for the website, and there's a Safer Together section.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. All right. Matt has a raised hand here. You can go ahead, Matt.
Hello. Yeah, so Karina had to duck out early and asked me to just real quick mention it was in the newsletter as well. But next week, Wednesday and Thursday, PBOT is going to be doing a virtual public meeting to present their 100% designs for the North Willamette improvements. So this is basically almost finished. The next step after this is they're going to go for construction bidding. So this is kind of a last chance to raise any feedback and concerns you might have, or just see it if you're curious about what they're up to.
Thanks, Matt. And that's basically, it's Willamette Boulevard from, like UP, but into our neighborhood all the way to Richmond, I believe. Is that correct?
Yeah, it goes up to Richmond, yeah.
Oh, farewell. Yeah. Okay. And so, the latest newsletter has the links to the Zoom sessions for those. There's also a webpage linked where you can see the designs. And I do believe February, we will have the project lead on that here to share more information, as well as the project lead on North Portland in Motion. So February is going to be like a transportation extravaganza, it looks like, with a few PBOT people here. So come on back for some more fun. North Willamette from Rosa Parks to Richmond. Thanks, Matt. Any other board members with updates they wish to share? Ashley, come on down. Yeah.
Okay. Hello, I'm Ashley, and I'm in charge of social media and special gatherings. So we voted in November or December? November to have, instead of having 12 monthly meetings, we would have a few, not like this gatherings. So we're going to get together and enjoy company. In December, the group got together and made cards, holiday cards for
Assumption Village.
Village. And so that was, a nice community event. We have another one coming up in March, and I would love to hear some feedback if anyone has any ideas on what would be good for our group. I am on the younger end of our community for the most part, and so sometimes my ideas don't gather as much buy-in, and so I just want to make sure that we're meeting everyone kind of where they're at. A good way for me to get information from people is a Google form. So I will create that, and then people can submit their input. We'll have that up. I'll share the link in social media, and then we'll put it in the newsletter next month.
Great. Thanks, Ashley.
Thank you.
Any other board members with updates? All right, I'm hearing none, I'm seeing none. And it is 8:51, so I'm going to go ahead and close the January general meeting for the St. John's Neighborhood Association. Thanks everybody for being here and for sticking it out, and sorry for the technical difficulties. We'll be back in February. As I mentioned, it's a little bit of probably a transportation month for that one. And then we'll enjoy an informal gathering in March, and actually be on the lookout for a solve cleanup too. If you want to, we're probably going to do that in February, have a litter cleanup. So thanks for being here.
Coldest, wettest day.
Yeah, it'll be an ice storm. Yeah, exactly right. Exactly. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.